So when I joined BCG on day one, I knew that I'm going to leave on day three's 600 or 700. The glamour, the salary is exciting for the initial 6 months or so. Especially the salary is exciting because you have a debt on your head as well.
A lot of students dream of getting into an institute like ISB and from them making their way to working in one or the other consulting firms. And when that consulting firm is a BCG, nothing can beat that, right? What if I tell you that that's not the case? And what if I tell you that I have with me today someone who has had this journey and then she decided to take a different route. I have with me today Shatakshi Sharma joining me from the West. Where are you based, Shatakshi, right now, and what is the time there?
So I'm based out of Cambridge, specifically Boston, here in US East Coast. It's 9:40 a.m. to be specific.
Lovely. A very good morning to you, Shatakshi. A good evening to me. Shatakshi, as I mentioned, in the beginning, you have had a different kind of a journey from a usual B school graduate, right? You went to ISB, you went to BCG, you checked all the marks, and from there you decided that you wanted to take a different route. Why did Shatakshi take that plunge? Why did Shatakshi make sure that she's not one of those B school students who go for the usual route?
Sure. So first and foremost, Purnakshu, thank you so much for the kind and the warm welcome. It's very interesting because from the outside, when we view people's journey, it may seem very different, or it may seem that they seem to be checking a lot of check boxes. My journey actually very interestingly started when I was 21, when I was in St. Stephen's College. And if you're in St. Stephen's College, McKinney hires, BCG hires. I failed to actually get into McKinsey back then. And it stayed with me for a very long period of time, too much to the extent that I worked actually for a boutique consulting firm right after St. Stephen's College, which was started by two ex-McKinseys. Then very interestingly, not many know that I worked with Ankur Warikko, who is quite a celebrity these days at Groupon India, and learned a great deal actually about startup, e-commerce and leadership while directly working with him. Then at an age of 23, I faced this really big conundrum in my life that I would want to not just make rich people richer, I would want to do something better for the society as well, which is that I'm not just looking out for my own self, I want to make sure that others get benefited from my efforts and my work. And back then I had an offer from Oxford Side as well, and of course Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. And I realized that so most of the people in India do an MBA because they do have to do an MBA, right? For me, it was a very different answer because I had actually stagnated in my growth. I was earning in true transparency somewhere around 80,000-90,000 per month. And I was just not able to move further from this, and not just being shallow here and just quoting monetary salaries. I was not even able to visualize myself what is next for me in terms of my growth, career and journey. And I felt that perhaps ISB is the right phase in my life. I have decent 5 years of experience from consulting to public policy now. So not many people know this. The seeds of my current education venture were actually sown during ISB Hyderabad days. In fact, I give it a lot to ISB Hyderabad. The professors from marketing to finance to operations helped me a lot. And I don't think looking back, I would have been able to do it so smoothly without ISB. So when I joined BCG on day one, I knew that I'm going to leave on day three's 600 or 700, because BCG for me was, I was not going to marry to BCG throughout my life. And I was very clear about that. That meant that I quickly learn, I quickly build a network, I quickly build my skill set, and I then go on to start my own venture.
Shatakshi, you mentioned that you did have a privilege. You had a luxurious life at BCG while you were doing your stint there. And I've had countless discussions. I've had talks with a lot of consultants, and I always happen to ask them this question. The glamour that it promises, the life that it promises, it comes with a grind, right? What was it like for you? Were you okay with that? Were you, telling yourself that no, this paycheck defines my time that it's taking or the toll that it's taking on my health or body.
So you're absolutely right. The glamour, the salary is exciting for the initial 6 months or so. Especially the salary is exciting because you have a debt on your head as well. So you have to take care of that. So largely nobody can take away the fact that it is not sustainable. It is not healthy. And that's why most of the consultants actually leave after 2 years, because you have a family to take care of. You want to take care of your health. As someone who was diagnosed with migraine at an age of 21, right after my college, I've been fairly cognizant that nothing is more important than my health.
Right.
If my health is getting deteriorated, then I don't think that paycheck is worth it. And at times it's exciting. You have stories to tell that, hey, I've stayed in office till 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. But it is not very exciting when you're 28, 29, you're hitting 30s. And it could be exciting for undergrads, especially who are 21, 22, right after St. Stephen's, LSR or IITs of the world. So it is what it is. Most of the people, I don't think I've met any management consultant who would ever deny that the grind or the hours were good. It is a sad part and the unfortunate part.
It's like someone telling you that you're so fortunate that you get to see the world. You always travel on the planes, but they never know that you have to get up at 4 to be ready to catch that plane and not get any sleep on the plane and then work the whole day. Right. Shatakshi, while all this was happening, at what point did you think or decide that, enough is enough? I want, as you mentioned also earlier, that I want to be my own CEO now. When did that decision take place, and how did you make sure that you take that leap of faith, you take that jump?
I have a 2-point answer to that, largely Purnakshu. First one is actually about 2021 when I left actually BCG. Yes. And one is actually about 2016-17 when I decided to become an entrepreneur. So largely when you think of my career at BCG, I actually know this for a fact, had the pandemic not happened, I think I would have worked for BCG for a couple of more months. So almost, I believe October, November 2020 is when I started having those questions that it seems to be the time that I move on. And February 2021 was actually the time that was actually my last serving month at BCG. And I actually want to say this, even as a serving alumni of BCG, I owe a great deal to BCG till date. For whatever reasons I was struggling with, I had decided to depart ways. And coming back to your question that, Shatakshi, when did you decide? I guess my answer, like I said, of entrepreneurship, of being my own CEO, did not just come suddenly in 2019, like I was saying. When I was working with Government of India, that is when I had realized that one day I really want to become a co-CEO. That is that create something of my own. It's not the position of a co-CEO that really excites me. It's the creation and that immense pleasure you get when you have beneficiaries who get benefit out of it. But I wanted a more freedom of time, and I was kind of feeling stuck that I enjoy my role, everything is fine, but with time I want to have freedom of time. And that is the reason why somewhere in 2020 and 2021 I decided to eventually leave BCG and work on my own.
Absolutely. And that takes me to the point where I can ask you about the things that you are working on currently. You are the co-founder of Global Governance Initiative. Tell us a little bit about what exactly is that initiative. Why did you think that this is going to solve an existing problem that we have in the market, and what exactly is that problem that you solve?
When I was working with Government of India, and Naman is the other co-founder of Global Governance Initiative, we actually realized one thing. There was a very sharp observation when we were fortunate enough to have a seat on the table in many meeting rooms, which was that many a times youngsters and females were not able to have a seat on the table. And this is when employment policies, women empowerment policies were being formed. And it was very disturbing for me, at least. Many times I was the only woman in the room when women empowerment policies were being formulated. I realized that the education ecosystem largely is also not really helping in terms of skills that help you get a job. So Like I said, the ISB curriculum is still fantastic. It's all Harvard case-based and all. But at the same time, even I've taken few classes at Harvard Business School and Harvard Kennedy. Most of these institutes, Purnakshu, really doesn't help you teach about the skills that help you crack a job. So we felt a problem in the market, and we realized that the education institutes, and mind you, these are the creamiest layer in the education institutes that are not really teaching you the skills that help you crack a job. So that's when the entire world of global governance initiative took place. We started with an alternative masters in public policy program that helps students not just get aware, but also get upskilled, and we connect them to employment partners who are working in public policy and social impact.
Lovely. Shatakshi, you mentioned that, very few B schools are actually managing to place people, and contrary to that comes the big school placement reports, right? Numbers and figures are plenty when we talk about them, and that can be something that students base their judgment on, right? When somebody is actually making that decision that they want to get into a B school, according to Shatakshi, what are some of the things that they should be keeping in mind, and what exactly are they doing wrong right now?
2-point answer once again, and Purnakshu, you're absolutely right. There is no audit happening of employment reports right now. Anyone at their own luxury, because I work in business, education sector as an entrepreneur, and of course I will not take names. Anyone and everyone is circulating any employment report right now. Point number one is, so Financial Times, at least in the MBA space, is the go-to typically ranking that this is a good ranking and they are credible. Point number two is largely around just go and talk to peers who are alumni from that school. I genuinely believe that social proof and customers of any organization, of any venture, are the best source to get you the truth, and not just one. At least talk to 5 to 6 people.
Right. The other factors, Shatakshi, here, especially in India, because I am aware of the Indian ecosystem better, is cost, right? The program fees is rising day by day. The numbers are getting higher every day. And the cost factor becomes a very big factor for anybody who is choosing to do an MBA, right? And if it's abroad, then I'm sure definitely the cost shoots up higher because there are, staying costs that is involved, and there are other elements that is definitely there. How should one be doing an actual ROI calculation according to you while they're selecting their B schools? And what is an ideal way of doing it? Is it just the kind of ROI calculation that majority of students do with respect to the kind of fees that you have paid and the salary that you are drawing from your first job, or there is more to it?
Such a beautiful question, Purnakshu, because you're absolutely right. At least I personally have always favored investing not just in stocks only, but also investing in relationships and your learning as well. So your ROI, and if you look at it from ROI standpoint, most of the people will never go and study abroad, because on ROI standpoint, all IIMs and ISBs of the world will have a better chance, because the return on investment is pretty quick, right? You'll pay off your loan in 2.5 years if you join a good organization and whatnot. I think two things that really should matter over and above just the CTC equation is, what kind of community are you surrounding yourself with during your MBA? Is it fairly homogeneous, or is it largely very diverse? So that's point number one. And second one is also around learning. Without taking the name of a friend, she graduated from IIM Bangalore and then she chose to work at McKinney. And she said that in the 2 years at IIM Bangalore, Shatakshi, all I learned, at least in terms of real skill, was just how to crack case interviews. But to answer a question, I go back to the diversity of the community. And what do you really learn? Are you learning Facebook case, which is based out of 2000? Or are you learning about NFT, cryptocurrencies as part of your curriculum also when you're analyzing problems? Because that is where the jobs are actually taking place in 21st century.
Tell me a story, Shatakshi, that has stayed with you while you were doing your work at Global Governance Initiative. Any stories that you have come across, any people that you have come across who have touched you, who have made you feel that you are on the right path and you should be doing what you are doing, and what are your goals in the future?
It's a very interesting question, but there is this particular person's story, and of course, I'll not release the name. She graduated from LSR in India and she took a break to actually prepare for civil services examination, I think for a year or two. And a very similar story of one more person after St. Stephen's College. She studied history at St. Stephen's, actually BA program at St. Stephen's College, whereby you study history as well. And she prepared for civil service examination. Both these girls were just struggling so much to not just find a job, but to find their confidence back in life. And I have never gone through that civil services journey, but I can just imagine that you're stuck in your room for almost 2 goddamn years, and your peers from these institutes are advancing themselves, and you're not able to move forward. So they joined GJ at 2 different point of time. The St. Stephen's person joined in 2020 and the LSR one in later 2020. And when both of them actually got back and said that we have a job offer almost 6 months after their graduation, I just felt really proud. Why, Purnakshu? Because in this country, many a times if women don't get the job, then they're asked to move the marriage path. And as a female who got married at my own terms at an age of 30, I felt extremely proud and happy, and those kind of stories have remained with me.
Great. Shatakshi, before I let you go, it has been a very fruitful conversation. I really liked talking to you. I really like the clarity that you have in terms of where you want to go, what you want to do in life. Any advice that you want to leave our audience with, who are in the conundrum, who are not as sure as Shatakshi, who actually think that maybe a BCG is the best thing in their life that they can achieve?
I always refrain from giving advice because I never paid heed to anyone's advice in my life. I think the advice would be just spend time with your own self, which most of the people in the social media world and the consumption of mobile phones and social media has just gone so high that people are not listening to themselves enough. You find your own answer, and then people, I also understand, will tell that, Shatakshi, I don't know how to find that answer. Do a lot of internships. I was talking to this IIT Kanpur BCG admit very recently. She's just 20, and this is what she said, Purnakshu, that I have worked for BCG as an intern, I have worked for Deutsche Bank as an intern, I have also worked for Unilever as an intern. And what I realized is that I don't want to be a cock in the wheel. At an age of 23, I want to start my own venture. And my mind was just blown. She's 20 and she's figured out that answer at an age of 20. It took me fairly 4 or 5 years after working that I want to become an entrepreneur. And entrepreneurship is also not for everyone. So that will be my final advice, that don't listen to someone else's advice. Find your own self. In a world filled with gurus, I actively tell myself that I am not a life guru. Please don't hear me if you don't like me. But the only thing, if you can hear from me, is I figured out my own journey by spending time with my own self. So see if you can spend some 10 minutes with your own self on a daily basis. You will be surprised. You'll fall in love with yourself, perhaps.
Lovely. Shatakshi, thank you very much for taking us time, for spending this morning from Boston with us, talking about your journey. I really like this conversation, one, because of the clarity, as I mentioned, that you have in your thoughts, and secondly, with what you are doing is something that we all need a mentor, we all need a coach, we all need a guide who can tell us what the next step could be, so that we can figure out what we are good at and what we can make the best out as candidly as possible. If you want to ask any question to Shatakshi, feel free to drop a message in the comment section, and we will make sure that we'll take that question to Shatakshi to answer. And do tell us if you want to see more of her on our channel. Thank you very much.